Yeah.
All right, is
All right,
everybody
folks.
ready?
Second starting.
We'll go ahead and call the February 20th County Commission meeting to order. We'll start with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders and members of the armed forces, followed by an invocation by Pastor Bert Wilson of the Faith Baptist Church. And then the Pledge of Allegiance by our Vice Chair, Mr. Commissioner, oh, no, I'm sorry, I was reading Joseph Flesher. The pledge is by
The other
Commissioner Ehrman.
I'm honored to do it.
I'm sorry. Already 2 minutes in and I've screwed up already. All right, with that, will you please rise and join me for a moment of silent reflection? Pastor? Thank you.
Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can gather here today in a free country. And I thank you, God, for this Board of County Commissioners. I pray that you will bless them and, Lord, give them wisdom as they guide our community and as they make, Lord, critical good decisions. I also pray for the presenters here, that God, they will present with wisdom and understanding, and that, Lord, the communications in this building will be done with a tone of peace and harmony. God, bless this proceedings today. I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in saluting our country, the United States.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, Commissioners, I do have one addition to the agenda. If it meets your pleasure, I would like to add our continuing conversation about the attorney's job description under my matters. I think we have a description that we can move forward with, but just need to get everybody's blessing, if that's all right.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that. And we will start with proclamations and presentations. Our first presentation of proclamation is recognizing African-American pioneer, Miss Alma Miller. This will be presented by Commissioner Moss. Ms. Miller, if you'd like to come on up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And anybody,
You gotta bring your crowd.
you gotta bring your entourage. You always have an entourage.
You know I have a crowd, right?
I know.
Okay. Just about everybody in this room.
Yeah.
That's what I was
They
thinking.
look like me. Oh, you all know her.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
What dad?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, proclamation. Recognizing African-American pioneer Mrs. Alma Miller. Whereas Indian River County celebrates African-American pioneers who, through their service in the business, public, and elected arenas, have paved the way for this and future generations. And whereas Alma Miller was born and raised in New Jersey, she moved to her husband Glenn's home state of Florida in 1999. The following year, she came out of retirement to join the Indian River County Health Department. And whereas Mrs. Miller is a faithful supporter of her church, she served as the district evangelism coordinator for the Church of God from 2003 to 2016, where she touched the lives of many congregants. And whereas Mrs. Miller works throughout Wabasso and the surrounding areas as a community human health and services advocate She plays an instrumental role in bringing essential resources and infrastructure improvements to underserved areas. And whereas Mrs. Miller is a board member for the nonprofit organization Coalition for Attainable Homes, where she dedicates her time to orchestrating affordable housing for Treasure Coast residents in need. Now therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, we commend Mrs. Alma Miller and recognize her outstanding achievements. She's a pillar of our community and has greatly enriched the lives of countless Vero Beach citizens. Adopted this 20th day of February 2024 by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, and signed by all 5 commissioners. And I would just like to say special thank you for your work with regard to the Coalition for Attainable Homes, because I know the importance of affordable housing, having served on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all. I am honored and humbled for you all to even consider the work that I do, because I do it because of the passion, and it's always humbling to know that someone acknowledges what you do. And I want to say I cannot do it by myself. As you can see, I do have this little army behind me, and especially this Glenn Miller. Glenn Miller allows me to go and do many of the things that I need to do in the community as an advocate. And I want to say that when we came to Indian River County, and I often say, I'm from Jersey, but I know more about Indian River County than I ever knew about Monmouth or Somerset County in New Jersey. Why? Because I got this position in the Florida Department of Health, especially environmental health, and it allowed me to see the things that needed to be done that I didn't even think about when I was in New Jersey. So I thank Rodney and Maya and Glenn for allowing me to do it, but I also thank Miranda and Julianne and Margaret and Molly and my little girl back there, I call her my daughter, Stacy, that allows me to do many of the things that I have a passion for. So once again, I thank you for this honor and this acknowledgement, recognition, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Sorry, I missed you. Thank you.
I know Miss Martha when she was climbing that ladder, so you're the apple don't fall from the tree. I need to be really good because I need to be with Susan.
You got paparazzi.
I love it. Congratulations. Of course. Fantastic. Thank you. All right, our next proclamation is a presentation of proclamation recognizing African-American pioneer, Mr. Craig Walker Sr. This will be presented by Commissioner Flesher to Mr. Walker. Come on up.
Come on, Craig. Tanya? Yes,
Good
Dr.
morning.
Ross, too. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the distinct privilege and honor of presenting this proclamation to a young man who exemplifies doing the right thing. And I mean that sincerely. As you'll hear, the number of things that he does in the community, he never asks for any consideration, financial or otherwise. He just does it the old-fashioned way. And I just want to say thank you, because it means a lot, and you are a pioneer. And I hope it's a message to the next up the road that we'll do the same thing.
Hopefully.
And if you ever had his ribs, you know him well too. Well, I present the proclamation recognizing African-American pioneer Craig Walker Sr. Whereas Indian River County celebrates African-American pioneers who, through the service in the business, public, and elected arenas, have paved the way for this and future generations. Whereas cooking is Mr. Walker's first passion, and his second passion is helping others. Mr. Walker started a catering business named after his son, CJ, known as CJ's world-famous barbecue and catering services. Whereas Mr. Walker is constantly thinking about helping people in need, and in no matter how big or small the situation is, he is always there to lend a helping hand. Combining his passions for food and helping others, he put together a holiday feast for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And Mr. Walker is also a barber and offers free haircuts to the community for back to school. And whereas Mr. Walker coached Little League football, whereas he mentioned many youths are letting him know that all things are possible as long as you are respectful, study, and work hard. And he created a special bond with many of the coaches and the players, and he's continued to stay in touch with all of them through the middle and high school. And whereas Mr. Walker pays his blessings forward, whether he is downtown shopping, out to dinner, eating, working with the PTA at Dodgertown Elementary, organizing toy drives for the holidays, or on the community streets in Gifford. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that we recognize Craig Walker and his numerous contributions to this community. Duly adopted on the 20th day of February 2024 and signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Thank you.
Craig,
Yeah, Joe.
what makes it happen?
Just trusting God. You know, I died twice, and I got another shot at it. So my key is to just make people smile. And I opened up the catering business because there's no other smile like those when they're eating. So I just decided, I told my wife, like, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I just began to just reach out and help others in the community. And when I see them going astray, as far as kids just walking home from school, getting in a fight, and I see elderly pass by and never stop. And I began to just jump out the car and mentor to them, like, it's a different way. You got to do something different. And I just stayed true to it over the years. I didn't expect it to get this big and this far, because it started out something that started in the confinements of my own home in my yard. And it just flourished through the streets of Gifford. And I took it and just moved. Like I said, I just sat still and let God use me to do what he wanted done. And that's what I do.
Thank you for what you do. I recant a little conversation when we mentioned that Craig does back-to-school haircuts free of charge. And it was commented that, hey, Craig, you don't like money? And he says, I love money, but I love the smiles even more.
Yeah, I love the
So
smile.
that was a beautiful statement you made.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Andrea, come on up. Come on. Come
I'm
on.
sure he couldn't do it without
She's
you.
no stranger to the barbecues. Madam Chair, I just want to say thank you for your understanding. Now that we've had a reduced amount of meetings, 2 meetings, it's tough to get all of the proclamations that we want to get out in one meeting, so, but thank you for your understanding.
It's important to recognize those in our community that are doing amazing things, so our pleasure for sure. Rounding out our proclamations for today is our next presentation of proclamation designating February 2024 as 211 Awareness Month. This will be presented by Commissioner Ehrman to Mr. Adcock
I'm standing in for
you're
Chad,
standing in, I was going to
yes.
say,
Good, welcome, and it's an honor for me to read this proclamation for 211. Proclamation designating February 2024 as 211 Awareness Month. Whereas 211 Helpline and Crisis Line continues to be the beacon of hope, providing life-saving crisis support and guidance when people are overwhelmed and don't know where to turn. And whereas during these challenging times that include pandemic impact and economic instability, hurricanes, 211's caring and highly trained staff had been the frontline responders 24/7 through it all. And whereas people of all ages and walks of life are reaching out for their growing struggles with mental and emotional health, addiction, housing, health, and other concerns, and 211 staff listens to each and every person to provide available resource options and to help them strategize and problem solve. And whereas 211 also has specialized advocacy and support programs for the community that include caregiver support, Help Me Grow, and 211's life-saving Sunshine daily phone calls, which continue to brighten the lives of isolated seniors and caregivers. And whereas 211 also responds to the 988 Lifeline number and support lines that include first responders and MyFLVET for veterans with peer-to-peer support, providing assistance to these specialized groups and their families. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that February 2024 is designated as 211 Awareness Month in Indian River County, and that the board reminds all citizens who are overwhelmed, in crisis, or just in need of a talk that 211 is available at any time to provide referrals for mental health counseling, substance abuse, healthcare, employment, food assistance, daycare, support groups, volunteering, free income tax preparation, and so much more. Adopted this 20th day of February 2024, and signed by all 5 county commissioners. Thank you for what you do. I know this is kind of a yearly thing, but it's well-deserved, and we know that y'all get busier every year, and we're glad to support, and thanks again for what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you all commissioners. We appreciate you designating February 2024 as 211 Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
right. Commissioners, there are no minutes for approval. I know, you're sad. So we'll move on to informational items. I did want to highlight a few things. First, Children's Week is February 26th through March 1st. We are having several activities. Cindy, did you want to highlight anything of those activities? Because this is the first year that the county will be participating in Children's Week.
All right, good morning. I am so pleased to share this exciting news. Indian River County Board of County Commissioners will be participating in Celebrate Children Week, Florida. This marks a significant milestone in our county as this is the first time we're taking part in the statewide celebration. So beginning February 26th and continuing through March 1st, we're going to be hosting a series of engaging activities around the community aimed at nurturing the well-being and success of our children, youth, and families. From In Our Hands, where we have the youth participating in hand artwork that is going to Tallahassee to represent that our children are in our hands. We'll also have a really beautiful presentation out in front of the chamber from our local pre-K. On Tuesday, we have members that will be going out into the community, including some of our commissioners, our county administrator, our deputy county administrator, reading to our pre-K as part of Storybook Village that is happening across the state as well. And then Wednesday will be our Teen Day, where we're amplifying the voices of young adults through an online survey, allowing them to share their insights and their hopes and dreams with all of us. Thursday, we have some engaging webinars that we're going to be participating in virtually with some of our esteemed partners and advocates across the state. But the highlight of the week really is our Golden Impact Recognition. This inaugural event will take place Friday at the IG Center from 2:30 to 4, where we'll be able to recognize the funded agencies from 22-23 that met 100% of their outcome measures. We're also going to recognize some of our programs of excellence in the county with our public libraries and our Parks and Rec and conservation programs that have really supported our youth. So in summary, this is just an invaluable opportunity to really showcase the commitment we have across the county for our youth and families. So thank you so much.
Fantastic, thank you. Excited that we're participating in that this year, so thank you guys for all the hard work. Another item I wanted to highlight is our Employee Appreciation Day, which will be held on March 1st from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. We will have several food trucks across 27th Avenue. Any employees who attend the lunch will be entered for a chance to win a gift basket. And then employees' names will also be randomly drawn for gift cards. And all employees will have 1 hour for lunch to be scheduled and coordinated with their respective supervisor. So come on out and enjoy Employee Appreciation, have some fun with the food trucks, and maybe win a prize. So we appreciate all of our employees. Looking forward to that. And lastly, I think Mr. Zito has something exciting to announce as well.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, officers, not on the agenda, but I thought it was worth taking a moment to celebrate an event we'll be hosting at the Jackie Robinson Training Complex this weekend. As you know, the complex and our relationship with Major League Baseball is not just an economic driver for the county, but they're part of a larger mission to bring athletes from the inner cities who've lost the connection to baseball through their RBI program, Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities. So they're doing wonderful things there in addition to filling hotels and restaurants. But to that end, that we also look forward to some really nice events that the residents and visitors to the county can enjoy. So this weekend, we're hosting the Historically Black Colleges and Universities Baseball Tournament. And it's going to be live baseball, highly competitive baseball that the community can enjoy. Tickets are very reasonable. I have some donated through Total Golf Carts that I can share with folks who may not be able to purchase them. So thank you for the sponsorship. But just, and I think Wilford's not here. He's mad at me because Bethune-Cookman will not be joining us. But I just want to share, I just want to share with you, we'll have Grambling, North Carolina, AT&T, Prairie View A&M, Alabama State, Southern University, and of course, the Florida A&M Rattlers.
Rattlers.
These games will be nationally televised, not streamed, but nationally televised on Major League Baseball Network. And the first game starts at 12 o'clock on Friday. The televised games are at 4 and 7 o'clock. Anyone can reach out to me for access, tickets, or more information, and we'll celebrate this weekend with pride.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for highlighting that. That's really exciting. All right, commissioners. Next is the consent agenda. Does anybody need to pull anything from consent? Anybody from the public wishing to pull anything from consent?
Madam Chair, move approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Flesher with a second by Commissioner Lohr. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and with that, we will move on to constitutional officers and governmental agencies. Mr. Ryan L. Butler, the clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller, is here to talk about Operation Greenlight.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, for this opportunity this morning to talk about the 2024 Operation Greenlight. This is the third consecutive year that clerk's offices around the state have taken part in Operation Greenlight, and the activity is designed to encourage people who have unpaid court costs, fines, and fees to come in, make a payment, and get on a payment plan. One of the detrimental effects of not paying your court costs, fines, and fees is that your driver's license gets suspended. And all it takes is making a small payment and getting on a payment plan to make a person eligible once again to get their license reinstated. This is the third year that we've done this here in Indian River County. There are no minimum payments required. It's based on the ability to pay. And over the previous 2 years, we actually took in $94,000 in collections during Operation Greenlight, and over 90 people were eligible to have their license reinstated based on the Operation Greenlight event. The real advantage to coming in during Operation Greenlight is that all the collection agency fees have been waived. So a person who owes money and who hasn't paid their court costs over a period of years can save hundreds or even thousands of dollars in waived collection costs by simply getting on the payment plan. We're planning this year to do this operation for 2 weeks. It's the first time we've done it for longer than 1 week, but beginning on March 8th, running through the 22nd, we'll be doing this at the courthouse Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, as well as at our Sebastian office. This year, we also have a plan on Saturday, March 16th, to do an event at the Gifford Aquatic Center from 9 to 1. And I want to thank Mike Zito, Beth Powell, David Smith at the Gifford Aquatic Center for working with us to make that classroom available. We're very excited to be able to do it on a Saturday off-site from the courthouse for people who cannot make it down there during the week and can come at really their own pace on a weekend and try to get their license reinstated. If anyone needs additional information, you can visit our website at IndianRiverClerk.com or certainly give us a call at the courthouse. But we're very excited about this event. We hope to exceed the collections that we've had in the previous years and also exceed the number of people who have their license eligibility reinstated because as we all know, the ability to drive is important to the ability to work. And if you're out there working, you can make those payments, you can pay off those court costs and fines, and it's a whole lot easier if you don't have to drive around with a suspended license. So we hope people will take part in that this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, our next item is a public hearing on charging criminal defendants additional fees and eliminating costs for indigent defendants. Ms. Prado, are you taking this?
Sure. So as this is a public hearing, I just want to go ahead, if we could go through the motions of opening the public hearing. Do you want me to do it that way first, or would you like me to present first? As a
Usually we just
judicial item?
present, and then we'll open the public hearing if anybody wants to talk on it, and then close it and
Thank you.
deliberate.
Susan Prado, Deputy County Attorney for Indian River County. So this is about charging criminal defendants additional fees and eliminating costs for indigent defendants. This is coming to the board pursuant to Florida Statute 939.185, which allows the county to impose court costs of $65 when a person is found guilty of a felony, misdemeanor, or delinquent act. This statute provides funds to be provided to 4 different funds: 25% for local court funding, 25% for legal aid, and 25% for law library funding, and 25% for juvenile justice centers and alternative programs. So in the past, what has happened is there have just been one single $65 fee collected per defendant. And what we're asking now is for there to be, for defendants that are not indigent, for there to be more than one $65 if there are multiple charges per the arrest. So, for example, I think Mr. DeBral put down here, if there's 3 different crimes, then instead of the mere $65, that it would be $195 in court costs. And just a demonstrative aid here, from 2022 to 2023, the $65 fee was assessed on 1,530 cases, resulting in $99,450 in court costs. In the 1,530 cases, there were 6,174 total counts. So if that had been assessed per count, then we would have had $401,310, which amounts to an increase of $301,860 in costs. Now, of course, in a perfect world, the court costs would be collected, as we just saw with Operation Greenlight. That doesn't always happen. So the court cost may not always be collected, but it could be in some of these cases. And the proposed amendment to the county code would be for County Code Sections 305.11 and 305.12. They are attached here too for your reference. So what we're asking for at this point in time, the recommendation from staff is that we go ahead and we amend the code sections to allow for the implementation of $65 per count for non-indigent defendants, and leave it at, just the waived fee for the indigent defendants. And obviously that cost in the indigency is taken into account by the court system, and they have their own system set up to determine who is indigent and who is not.
All right. Commissioners, are there any questions for Ms. Prado?
How do we know if they're indigent?
So I know the court system has their own forms and everything that they go in and fill out. I recall from a while back doing some of the courtroom work, a parent, for example, in some cases, or a defendant, they would go ahead and they would be advised to go to, I believe it was the clerk's office, to go fill out an indigency form, and they would have to provide whatever documentation is necessary there. And so they make that determination whether or not someone is indigent.
This is in line with state statute?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Fleischer with a second by Commissioner Ehrman. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
There's no reason why the good people of the county who do not commit crimes should have to pony up to ensure that the services are rendered at the courthouse.
Agreed. All right, the next item is County Administrator's Matters, our 2023 goal-setting final reports. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Pull this presentation up. So we just want to present the 2023-2024 goal-setting report, just to kind of remind everybody and also share with the public how we got here. In addition to our consultants working with our staff, doing just basic research on the community, understanding the community. Also, there was a number of personal interviews, but with individually with the board, with administration and senior staff. And then those results were distilled down to create questions that would send out to all of our employees. And we sent out an employee electronic survey. This is kind of the process that we did. It started in October, the one-on-ones, and then we did the one-on-ones with the administrative leadership, and then the electronic survey was open for 2 weeks. And what will ultimately happen is this going to lead to our strategic plan. This is really the foundation. I have mission, values, and then goals highlighted because part of the process was to establish some interim goals and priorities until we can complete a full-blown strategic plan. This is just a representation of the department participation. You can see it was pretty much across the board. These numbers don't reflect 100%, and combined they do, but you can see some departments participated at a larger measure, some are larger, some are smaller, like all of HR participated, but they represent 1.73% of the, and OMB as well, of our employee population. So then on December 8th, we had a goal-setting workshop with our consultants, with both the board, senior administration, and we even had the county attorney's office, participating with us as well. And so just kind of findings, one of the first things that you do in strategic planning, one of the initial steps is you scan your environment. What's the internal, external factors out there that we need to be aware of? And you identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, or some people call it SWOT or challenges. I'm not going to review all these. You have them in the report, but this is just really where we went through and identified what the strengths were for the county. I think everybody knows we're very, fiscally, we're very fiscally strong. We've got a great sense of community. There's a lot of institutional knowledge, dedicated staff, the board's acknowledgement for the need for change. I mean, that was a significant finding, on behalf of the consultants, because many times, as I think they shared, they can go in and they can have a bifurcated council or commission where some say we don't need it, some say that we do. So we thought that was, and one of the other strengths is the commitment to the environment and our natural resources. Some of the weaknesses, we talked about these at the workshop. We can sometimes be a little siloed. We're very rule-bound. That's something that we need to look at. Some of our policies are antiquated. And then I will say that the weakness regarding affordable housing is it's double-edged. One is within our community, and then the other was from a recruitment standpoint for our employees. If we hire employees or I make them an offer and they can't afford to live here, we've had some that just can't move here. Either they're able to move to Palm Bay or somewhere else, but if they can't do that, we have had people decline the offer after taking the job or after accepting it. Some of the opportunities, we've already started the partnerships with our municipalities. Thank you, Commissioner Ehrman, for leading that effort. And we worked with Tom Lanahan with the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. We've met with the City of Sebastian, City of Vero Beach. We met with City of Fellsmere. Indian River Shores says if something come up, they'll meet with them, and I'll be reaching out to Cherry so we can meet with Orchid, if they would like to meet as well. Oslo I-95 interchange has to be one of the hugest opportunities, for the county as we speak from an economic development standpoint. And I think everybody knows that we want to, and we're going through the EAR process, the urban service boundary. We want to do things that make a sense of, that keep or maintain our sense of place, retain what makes us unique, the character, the feel, the 167,000. But, even I'm finding myself, hey, out in the public, hey, you're our county administrator. Or my daughter likes saying, and I keep telling her, will you stop saying that? It's kind of funny. She's, my dad's the county administrator. 8 is great. So, but also looking at, I think we've enhanced our citizen engagement. We've been working on that. And then looking at how we've got the economic development plan we're going to be bringing forward for the RFP. So that's an opportunity. Some of the threats we've mentioned, with the economic development plans, the idea is to address the issue of having an undiversified workforce or economy, looking at our workforce, attainable housing. We already know we've had conversations about water supply. We've had conversations about septic to sewer. Those are some looming issues that are facing the county. Infrastructure. We know unfunded mandates. We see what Duval County got attacked from a cybersecurity standpoint. So everything we've done, we've had meetings, with Dan. We understand where we are from a security posture. And then obviously the ability to manage our growth, it could be a threat. And then the other component is the recruitment and retention. So we asked, from based on all the survey results, these are some recurring themes, and I'm going to just go really, without going through all these, go into the ones where that the consultants tested through the survey, and then they rank ordered them based upon the vote between most of them are like 1 to 4, 1 to 5, and I'll identify that. And if there's any here that you'd like to touch upon, we can do that. So these are the 4 phrases that were tested, and this is actually, if you see to the left in the orange box, That's the sheet that we made notes on from the workshop. And the red's what we said we were going to focus on in terms of building a mission statement. You know, customer service, serve and protect, equitable services, balanced quality of life, natural resources, and sustainable growth for our residents. Those were the tested ones among our employees and administration in the board. And where they came out, again, there was, can you go back? So there's 4. So the highest rank one could get is a 4. So this doesn't come as a surprise. We're a county that's committed to public safety, serving and protecting our citizen. That ranks number 1, maintaining a balanced quality of life, our natural resources and sustainable growth, number 2, customer service, number 3, and then equitable services, number 4. And you see the rankings there. So the next, we looked at values. Values are the moral compass for our organization. They tell internally our employees and externally our customers, these are the behaviors and the conducts by which you can expect us to act when we're serving the public, when we're working with one another. And that's one of the things that we'll be devising and developing and bringing them back to you as well, because this is important. The employees need to know this is the expectation. And for me, when I speak to Suzanne, when we do the new employee evaluation instrument, these are going to be threshold questions. It's a yes or no. You either are accountable, you're honest, and you have integrity. And if you don't, then that's an issue for us. That's kind of goes to the Jim Collins bus. If you don't represent the values of the organization, maybe it's time for the bus to stop, and then you get off. So they tested I say we because collectively we all took the survey, the values, and we looked at internal, external customer service. Again, our departments have to work together. I'm not saying I've seen much more siloed organizations, but we do have some silos. So we break that down through collaboration, communication, and also providing service. We have operating departments that provide services to our residents and businesses in the field. Well, what's behind them, supporting them, are our internal departments. And they need to be able to give the operating departments the resources and the ability to do their job effectively. So they have to provide a level of customer services to the operating departments so the operating departments can carry out the mission and try to realize our vision. Integrity, transparency, and respect. That should go without saying in public service. I had a conversation with the Public Works Department recently, last week, maybe the week before, and we were like, listen, we are a customer service business, and we need to have integrity, be transparency, and we need to demonstrate respect when we're working with our residents as well as getting our colleagues, because public service, we serve the public. We are a customer service business, and I've shared, if you don't think that's the case, then we probably need to evaluate whether this is the right place for you. I'm not trying to be, crude, but it's just like we serve the public, whether they pay a fee, whether they pay a rate, or whether they pay a tax. We serve them. Honesty and trustworthiness. And then as well, our county being dedicated and collaborative in the workplace. So then the ranking of the values, again, 1 through 4, you see where they're very close, but honesty and trustworthiness, number 1, integrity, transparency, respect, number 2, internal and external customer service, 3, dedication and collaboration in the workplace. And I apologize. If you recall, we sent this out, there was like 811 employees with an email, and 483 responded to this. So that's more than a 53% response rate, which is I was really impressed that many employees did take the time to do it, to take the survey. So I think that really speaks when we see what they say the values of our organization should be. That's more than half of our employees they're there. We just need to move the other 47% that maybe they didn't appreciate the survey, maybe they didn't want to, but whatever the case might be. But I thought I should have mentioned that earlier, about 53% response rate. So goals, we asked for goals and priorities, if you recall, and this will help us for coming up in this coming fiscal year budget from an interim basis until we can more fully develop our goals, objectives, strategies, establish timelines and performance metrics. And so there was 9 that really kind of stood out the most. And it didn't surprise me, the environment. Well, these are the 9. I'll get to the actual voting of where they fell out. But environment, quality of life, infrastructure, public safety. Again, there's that word, internal communication, collaboration. These are goals. High quality customer service, sustainable economic growth, updating current policies and procedures, and then encouraging affordable housing opportunities. Then when they were tested, again, not a surprise, public safety number 1, infrastructure number 2. We've had these conversations with all of our cities, and they've been stormwater, septic to sewer, the potable water, the roads. It doesn't surprise, I don't think it surprised anybody on the commission. Then and I put an asterisk by the ones that are really like internal administration ones. High quality customer service would be the number 1, where you see the asterisk. Internal communication collaboration at 466, number 2. And then the third being updating our current policy and procedures. And then encouraging affordable housing and opportunities. That was related to, again, both outside, the organization, external, but internal for our recruitment and retention issues. So with that, what staff is recommending that the Indian County Board of County Commissioners accept the final report and its findings as a guidance for the development of the approaching fiscal year budget. And I'm open for any questions. And I want to thank you. Actually, I want to thank you, your leadership. I want to thank the senior leadership team, or Mike, all of our directors, and then the 480 some employees that actually participated in the survey. Because if we don't they're in the field, they're in maybe in a cubicle, and if they don't give us their opinion, it's just, if we just did it by ourselves, it doesn't have as much meaning. But we asked them their opinion, and we received a couple emails saying, hey, thank you, appreciate that. So with that, I'll return to and I do have one more slide at the end, I'm sorry. Yeah, next steps. But I'll wait for if there's any questions or
Does
comments.
anybody have any questions on the report? Comments, concerns? Yes.
I think it was well worth the funds that we spent. It's clearly a defined roadmap on where this county should be going. And I'll also add that, Mr. Administrator, I don't believe this has happened in over 20 years.
It's correct. I don't think there's, we've not found one, you're correct.
Right, so most organizations stay on top of this, so I'm all in.
All right. Madam Chairman? Yes, Commissioner Ehrman.
I'm glad to see that customer service ranks so high, and you said it well. We're in the customer service business. We're in the business of providing a service, whether, just like anybody else would be out there. It's just we do it in a different way because it's with tax dollars. But I am glad to see that, and I know I've stressed that since day 1, and I know you and I have had many talks about that. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that of course, public safety rates high, and communication, especially among employees and stuff, rates very high. So I'm very pleased with what we've done here so far. I'm very pleased with the process and what the results show, and I appreciate your hard work on it.
Well, it's a team effort. Really with Mike and all the directors, they all really pushed, and they got an email out to the employees. I emailed the employees. We encouraged them because we need their feedback as well. And again, I want to thank you all because you took a time out of your day to individually meet with our consultants, to provide them that guidance, what would be successful. So
That's the beauty of this, is you pointed out, the input. We're thankful that the employees stepped up to the plate and gave their feelings, their opinions anonymously, so that they can speak freely. And looking at other jurisdictions internally, this board, I think if you're on the gamut of where we might need to go and why we may go, now we have to go. And I have to say that I am pleased too that customer service has come up. That's probably the bulk of our, between communication and customer service, that's probably the bulk of our inquiries that we get on a daily basis, because people have to be reminded that we work for the citizens.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes, thank you. I think it definitely was a very worthwhile exercise, and I appreciate the fact that the invitation was extended to everyone to participate. That made it even more meaningful. And beyond that, I think it's really helpful to outline that it's a very straightforward exercise, but also very helpful going forward to outline the strengths and the weaknesses, and especially the weaknesses, because then we know, where we need to take this for the future. That becomes our roadmap. So I appreciate the specificity, inclusivity, and specificity. Thank you for both.
Thank you.
So I see you have your next step slides up. So my question is, how do you plan to integrate this into the budget process?
So the goals and priorities that you all established, we would call them interim at this point, but it would inform our budget process. So as departments are coming forward, they understand these are the goals and the priorities of the commission coming into this fiscal year. And then the other component is, besides us bringing a strategic planning team together to take those key words and come up with a mission statement and our values, is, it's a question, and I would say it's a resounding yes in my professional opinion, that we continue toward developing a full strategic plan comprised of more in-depth goals with objectives, strategy, actionable items that includes an implementation plan that has both a timeline. Is it a short-term goal? Is it a medium-term goal? Maybe it's just an instant one. It's, sometimes you get some of those, but then there's metrics tied to it, and then we can develop a scorecard of how well we're doing in implementing our strategic plan. And recognizing, I once had a member of commission tell me, it's like tell her fellow commissioners, like, he's going to beat us over the head with this once we adopt it, if we try to go. But the point is, it's flexible and it's agile. So if conditions change as we do a checkup every now and then, ideally you want to do 3, I think a 5-year strategic plan, and we validate it every year if we have to.
Yeah, no, I do think that having a roadmap and something that indicates to the public where our priorities are from funding perspective helps with transparency, and it helps people understand why certain things are funded and others aren't. I also find it ironic that, like for Children's Services, we require some of those agencies to have strategic plans or to have some type of process that they update those, and yet we, until now, have not really had one for ourselves. So I think it's wholly timely and overdue. And so with that, commissioners, do you guys have any comments on the next steps or questions? Do we need a motion or?
Madam Chair, we're talking about customer service and integrity and all of these things. What about the employees that we have that have never had any training in that? And now we're going to expect them to have the best customer service ever without training. I suppose that would be the next step.
Yeah. So if you recall, in one of the slides, it did talk about not the slide, but actually the. Let me see if I can find it here. It talked about professionalism and training. It's on one of the papers that we wrote. So that's one of the things. We've already investing in some of our leadership. We've pushed out customer service training that includes a component of de-escalation that all the employees are required, I think, by the end of this month. Am I correct, Mike? By the end of this month to have viewed the video. We also have the opportunity to bring in trainers, whether it's, there's a number of different ones that are out there. We could find somebody to come in and get the employees go through it. We have talked with Suzanne, and we do these Tuesdays 10 and 2, once a month, and maybe kind of using that as a basis to bring in trainers to try to cycle through and get through issues that we're facing. So yes, we have some directors. There's 2 right now that are in the high performance leadership program, and we've identified 3 more, and we're looking at others, and then we want to get it down to where we can get to the managers, keep cascading downward, so everybody understands from a high performance leadership standpoint of what should be expected of them and how they should be running their departments, their divisions, as well as providing baseline training for our employees.
Commissioner Lohr, I take it or the way I would like it to work, or my impression, is that if this is going to help set priorities in the budgeting process, and customer service is listed as one of those things that is very important, then part of the budget needs to include ongoing customer service, training, development, however you want to
I agree with
call
you.
it.
And I would also add that, going from the top down, sometimes that can get stale, but I'd also add that in our onboarding hiring practices, there should be, I can tell you, I don't think that's happening right now, and I think the onboarding process, that needs to be chiseled in stone with them.
You are correct. And Suzanne and I have had several conversations about a couple things. One, they're in the process of developing an employee handbook, extracting policies from that book, that, like, I don't know if you've seen it, the Administrative Policy Manual. I don't know if employees actually know, well, hey, listen, these are the expectations for me during my employment. So creating a handbook and then kind of tweaking our onboarding to where we can do more of a traditional hybrid, doing a traditional in-person, myself, welcoming them, talking about our values, talking about our mission, talking how whether you're maintaining a swale or you're, a plant operator, you're a fire medic, how you fit into the overall mission, and introducing them to the organization. And maybe what we do right now in terms of the online component as it relates to benefits and awareness of certain things that the counties offer, that can still continue. So we're going to try to look at a hybrid type, and then even potentially bringing in, I've done it before, and I've done it in other places where you have certain directors come in, they talk about their operations so they can see the big picture.
I'm sure we have.
So we are working on some of that, I can tell you right now. A couple weeks ago, month so, I met with Suzanne and her staff, and we looked at the table of contents for the employee handbook and what needs to be included. And obviously before we get that done, it would be vetted between the directors and our county attorney's office to make sure we're staying on top of, because there's some policies there, they're just outdated, and they need to be updated. And there's one I'm probably going to be bringing to you, and I think you're aware of it. I just believe at the end of the day, managers and above should be at-will employees as well as a couple others. And right now, we have where it's very cumbersome if the organization wanted to be agile and make changes.
Commissioner Lohr, you probably have much more experience in this, but as you said, onboarding, if the onboarding process is done properly, you can prevent a whole list of issues later on down the line. So I would definitely agree that an overhaul to our onboarding process it should be just as important, because that's how we're going to get this message to the people that are interacting with the public the most.
Right, and maybe if you hire the hiring process, and I know we get the weekly notice, maybe you could bundle up a few of those weeks and have all of those brand-new employees sit down, and I'm sure we have internal people that can talk about customer service. In fact, we could highlight some of our high-performing customer service employees. I mean, it's basic.
Because everybody has that customer, even the guy driving the grader to the person answering the phone are all out there dealing with the public. And some of those non-traditional roles that you think or don't think are customer service related that can cause some of the most problems. Mike, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, you pointed out just a couple of comments. You mentioned the guy that's driving the grader, okay? That was one of the individuals, and I realize I think we have 8 graders, so, I'm not isolating to one individual, identifying them, but one of the grader operators came to me and said, thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to bring information, to talk about it, what we go through. And it was very rewarding to hear that from somebody who drives a grader with earphones and is out there doing a job and with not as much customer contact as somebody that's handling a phone at a service desk, and feeling that was important, that his input was accepted into the process, so thank you for that. The other thing is, we mentioned onboarding. You know, oftentimes, I guess onboarding is looked at as cumbersome, a waste of funding, duplication of efforts because you have a valuable veteran with an individual sharing and motivating and directing and guiding. It's all very important.
Yes.
I know I mentioned a popular hotel chain that I'm slightly familiar with, and that's the way it's done. You know, you're taking that, you put in the nest, and then you're taken out of the nest until you're ready to fly. And that's what we need to do here, because we are losing a lot of valuable institutional knowledge. There was a big hiring process way back, and then we've lost a few. And it's time to ensure that everybody wants to be here, do the job, and go in the positive direction of yes instead of we don't do that here.
I agree, Commissioner, and I'll say
big.
this, and I know, and some of the employees have heard me say it when I had the employee meet and greet out at the fairgrounds. I think it was well-intended. We had 2 sessions. Public service is an honorable profession, but it is a privilege. It shouldn't be taken for granted. We are here to serve the public. It's not the other way around. So, I mean, the ability during that onboarding process to meet with and reinforce our organizational's core values, our mission, and how they come in play with that, and how each of them has a part in helping us achieve that mission and hopefully realize our vision is critical. So regardless how, you know, if it's once a month, to your point, if it's once a month, it's something that we need to do. And I'm committed to that because I think it's important. They need to hear from administration and others that are in leadership that it can take the time when they start, welcome them to the organization, and then turn around and tell them how important they are and what role they serve. Because at the end of the day, every person, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do, but why? People want to know their why. You've got to inspire them to what you're here for this reason. Why? Because you're impacting this person's life. Even an integrator, they have a lot of customers. They're just unspoken, a lot of them, until somebody doesn't grade their road, and then they realize how important they are. So I mean, so it is important.
And, you know, I'm sure the sheriff can attest, at the SO, you went to go on your computer and you got stopped. You have to answer the training values that have been disseminated. Otherwise, you have no use of your computer. And I realize that a lot of employees do not have the opportunity because they don't have a particular workstation, i.e. the grader, but has to go into the office eventually, and there is a computer for the use. I mean, that's one good tool, but I think a great combination is the day-to-day activity, also the monthly or bi-monthly visit from inside forces and external forces. And sometimes somebody from the outside coming in does a whole lot more than we could ever do from the inside. So it's just a thought, a combination of things. I saw on your last slide, you had 3 objectives or things to do, next step, and it looked like the first box, you and your team are going to be checking it off.
Yes.
And the second box, it looks like you and your team are going to be checking that off.
Yes.
What are we doing with the third box?
So the third box, you know, and we can have conversations, do we continue with the existing team that helped facilitate this, or do we go out? We did budget, we have funds already budgeted because we only used a portion of the funds to get where we are today, and then the remainder of the funds to help us, you know, facilitate. I will tell you, because I've heard people say, well, can you do it in-house? And it's a challenge because, you know, I can tell you when I was at St. Lucie County, it was myself, another staff member, we were solely responsible for advancing the strategic plan. And so you had dedicated staff. Here we do not have dedicated staff, so whether it be the consultants that helped us get here or another set then that's what we would do to help us facilitate those workshops and drive it home in a more quick manner.
So what's the timeline on that?
I would like to get it done before the end of this fiscal year. It needs to be done. I want to get it done as soon as possible because it drives everything. Because
The
I mean,
funding?
what's that?
The funding is?
We have the funding there because we budgeted X amount. We only spent a small portion of that. We spent some of that already on to get to where we are, this foundation. Because it goes back to, can you rewind some? I'm sorry, go all the way back. It's like almost the beginning. Okay. Keep going. You'll see that big arrow. There. So
I am very impressed with the results of the first wave. I think it's very thorough.
Yeah, and I mean, if the question is being asked, do we want to move this forward more expeditiously, my suggestion would be to
Better
stick
work
with
for
the
you.
same group that got us here, because they already understand our process.
As predicted.
And, I mean, I don't,
But
You can't go anywhere else. I mean, they
Yeah.
already know what's going on.
they have some good stuff here. Now, we would need somebody else to look at this and assess what was given in this package as was discussed when you brought this.
that's why I brought it in full transparency.
I said
My
it's
recommendation
gonna
would
happen
be, if
in
you're
3
asking,
waves.
that we continue with Saviak and Levy Consulting. There was another couple other people, team members behind the scenes that you were not aware of, but
So you're looking forward to move this today to next wave?
not today. I've asked for a proposal from them in the event that that's the direction that the board wants to go.
So we'll wait for their proposal?
Yes. And I would bring it back because it'll exceed I'm sure, the next one will exceed the 35,000.
I will say, Commissioner
Doesn't have to.
Fletcher, that I think that when we started this process, you wanted to kind of take it slow and not commit to the full thing to see what the deliverables were, right? And it sounds like the deliverables that have been given have been impressive to everyone. So I appreciate that because, you don't know what you're getting with some of these things. And it did give us the ability to reflect on what they did. But I would agree with you that I think that they did a good job and kind of dived into it real deep. Maybe at first we weren't totally all on board with all the workshops and the different interviews, but I think it worked out well and we have a good understanding.
I also think deep down, hopefully the 5 of us had already recognized these symptoms prior to the study even being taking place. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to know that people don't return phone calls or emails.
Right.
Commissioners, if I may, just really briefly on the issue of obviously bringing it back and over the threshold. I believe this issue was kind of brought up when this first came about, was a question on having to do the RFP and having to deal with all that if they were hired on for a second term and if it goes over the amount of the threshold. So I just kind of want to put a pin on that and make sure that we are okay before we do that.
This wouldn't be over the administrator's threshold.
Okay.
The next phase probably would
And
be, so
that
I would bring
was-
it back.
The third will.
Yeah,
The second would.
yes, the second phase would be, yes.
So, and that was the concern that Mr. DeBrawl had pointed out in the beginning was, it's under his threshold for the first, but when we're coming up on the second, there may, I just want to make sure that we are 100% in the green. So if you would just allow me to put a pin on that certain item, just to make sure that we're in the clear.
And that's
I
why,
got you. I think I brought that up, that we were definitely exceeding. It just this was broken down into 3 components. But that's why.
and that was the purpose of putting it on the agenda, even though it was within my threshold, spending threshold, that there could likely, if the board was pleased, to move forward with them, so.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
let me say, so that process will move forward, but the training process is separate and apart from that. And to Commissioner Fletcher's point, we can benefit from outside expertise, and we do need it. However, just yesterday at staff meeting, I placed emphasis on scenario-based training, and I think that's what we need, because a lot of the complaints we get are capable of repetition, yet evading a strategic or tactical response. I'm sorry to go back to my law enforcement days, but that's how you prepare for different scenarios, and when the employee encounters that scenario, they're prepared for it, and their guard isn't down, they don't lose their cool, they understand how to approach it. So we will seek outside resources. We have some tremendous in-house talent that we can use because the training has to be specific to their departments under a larger umbrella of general customer service principles and attributes that they should all embody.
Agreed. Everybody that works here is an ambassador for the county, whether they recognize that or not, but everything that they do reflects on the county and the organization, and the way in which they do it as well, so.
We are the county. You are the county is my mantra in our citizen services half of the org chart, which we've been doing a program for years, and we'll continue to improve that.
All right, commissioners, any more comments on this? Well, I guess we need a motion to accept the final report.
Motion to accept this report as presented by the county administrator.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Again, appreciate your leadership and your support. I think there's, we hear sunrises, not high rises. There's a nice, bright sunrise on the future for the county. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, commissioners, does anybody need a break, or are we gonna push through? Anybody need a break, or? You could use one? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. call the meeting back to order, and our next item is opioid settlement proceeds to 19th Judicial Circuit Drug Court Program. Ms. Prado.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. This morning, I would like to bring to you the opioid settlement proceeds for the 19th Judicial Circuit Drug Court Program. So on June 15, 2021, this board approved a proposed memorandum of understanding with the State of Florida Attorney General's Office that serves as the allocation agreement between the State of Florida and the local governments on the settlement of various opioid cases. As part of the MOU, money would go to a city/county fund, a regional fund, and a state fund. In December 2022, Indian River County received $139,604.16 from the state of Florida for its portion for the city/county fund. The large class action settlement was recently allotted by the board at its meeting on January 9th, 2024, and that was from the manufacturers of various opioids, and namely Purdue. So just for clarification, this is the smaller pot of money. So on April 4th, 2023, the board had voted to have the county attorney's office work with Commissioner Laura as a liaison to focus on using the proceeds from opioid settlements for the alternative court programs, mental health court, and drug court, coordinating with other sister agencies such as Hospital District. Also, meetings between Judge Cox, Menz, and Judge Stone were held. The judges did recommend using those proceeds for assessment, treatment, testing, and wraparound services such as housing and transportation for participants in alternative court programs. On May 17, 2023, the Indian River County Hospital District Board of Trustees discussed this matter and voted unanimously in agreement with the recommendation to use the proceeds on assessment, treatment, testing, and wraparound services for the alternative court programs. Since then, we have received funds from the Walmart, Walgreens, CVS class action settlement in the amount of $305,751.08. In conversations with Chief Judge Swab and Wendy Parent from the 19th Judicial Circuit, the need for the opioid assessment, treatment, testing, and wraparound services do remain in great demand. The drug court has exhausted the last year's funds at a successful rate, and once again, the 19th Judicial Circuit is seeking to have those funds appointed or given to them. So we are requesting that at this point in time, the funding for this year be given to them. Not only that, but after discussion between staff, we have also sought to have the funds be distributed to them on a reoccurring basis. But that would be up to the board, obviously, and the board could then go ahead and ask that that be at any time, that be reheard to have those funds cease being distributed to the 19th and distributed elsewhere if needed. But that would make it, in essence, a smoother transaction for them to go ahead and have the funds transferred just directly to the court versus every year them having to come back up and ask for the funds again.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe that this is a good thing, but in addition to those large amount of dollars that we talked about a few months ago, so this is a separate and distinct from that. This is the second draw, if you will. So let's not get this confused with the 1 point whatever that's coming.
Yeah, that was my question. What,
This is,
how many pots?
this is an addition, and again, we remind that when this was first proposed, and we did not know the actual dollar amount yet, and there was still a sliding scale to happen, it went to the Public Safety Council, and it was well vetted out, and then it was vetted once again, when questioned, it was vetted here. That's all separate. But during that time, Chief Justice Swab did indicate that more assistance could help the process far more with wraparound services. There was a greater need, as he said humbly, that the applicants were all justified, but again, not putting words into the Chief Justice, we don't do that. But he did say that he could use additional funding and that this was a great start. So, but we're not talking about any of that funding, we're talking about this addition. And what's the dollar amount to the addition?
305.
And is that recurring?
No.
From
One
my
shot.
understanding, this one will be reoccurring, but it's a smaller pot of money.
The Walmart settlement is reoccurring.
Is it reoccurring at 305 yearly?
I know the others is reoccurring at an unknown specified amount.
Correct.
Less than half of, it was kind of like half.
It
of
got
what
cut.
the initial-
It's gonna go from 1 million to 500, then it's gonna.
Correct. So there's that bigger pot of money that will be reoccurring. This, I am being told, is reoccurring too. It's a smaller pot, but this is the one that goes directly to us. And from my understanding, it's going to be reoccurring for a certain period. I am not aware of the period. That was why in discussion, myself, Mr. DeBrawl, and Kristen, the discussion was the board then just like to, until this little smaller pot dries up, continue to dedicate it to the 19th. If not, then that's fine. Then we can just do this annually once it comes up and then just ask for it again.
For clarification, you don't have an exact timeline. The first settlement, the general settlement, was for 18 years.
Correct.
And that there'll be a sliding scale. On this one, we don't know how long, if it is reoccurring, and how long it would be.
That's correct.
So basically, we're dealing with more unknowns than less unknowns from the other.
On this smaller number, yes, I'm afraid so.
So today, we have an excess of funds that's about 300,000?
Yeah, so it appears that the smaller fund is 305,751.08.
And I think what you're gonna find, Commissioner, is that each time the settlement occurs, it's with different
Yeah.
businesses, this being Walmart, Walgreens, and the like. So with that, Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and then I have a question, and I know that there was comments from the public.
So if I could just clarify the motion, so you're motioning to approve the amount for this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
What did you say?
Would you like to say something?
Chief Judge Schwab, if you have any
Yes.
questions, I'm here.
Good to see you, Chief
It's
Judge.
always great to hear from you, Chief.
Likewise, Commissioner. No, I'm here in case you had any other questions. All I can tell you is that from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. We would just be coming back and asking you from a different pot for the same type of funds. The wraparound services, everything from starting when they come in to the initial, is this an opioid addiction case, and then getting them through. As you might imagine, some of the lower level type drugs are easily treated in a setting that's more of a counseling session. But when we get into the opioids and the fentanyl and some of the other things, a lot of these folks need that inpatient treatment that can run a minimum of 90 days. And then those funds that we come and we ask for on an annual basis, we don't know if we're gonna need that for one person or we're gonna turn out to need it for 5 people or 15 people. So we can budget, but sometimes that budget we end up with a shortfall, and that's why we've come back and asked for the funds that you're looking to give, I hope, to us at this time. But I'm here for any questions that you have about the process.
Chief, I did characterize your intent correctly. I'll let you be the judge.
No, that is correct. So everything from the initial taking in of the case when it comes into the system, and, remember, we can esoterically talk about this thing in a lot of different directions for forever, right? Do we want to put or spend the money on the front end before it ever gets to the court system? Or once it gets to the court system, then what do we have to do when it gets to us? And then how do we restore these people to being good citizens, accountable to their families, to the community, to their jobs, to their employers, et cetera? But the funds that you're looking to disperse at this point in time get us from the entry phase all the way to the exit phase. It just will depend ultimately on how many people ultimately need those or that particular subset or those opioid addictions.
I just had a question. So the funding, obviously, some of this funding will be going to drug court.
Correct.
And the wraparound services, will it be inclusive of Veterans Court as well? And be able to outreach, because we do have a larger challenge there as well.
Sure, and the Veterans Court, and Wendy has the numbers, I believe. We have a lower level of involvement in the Veterans Court, not for desire, but there's a gatekeeping function through the state attorney's office to determine if those cases actually get to us. But yes, those things are the same opioid-type addictions.
Right.
Wendy?
Remember, that would have to be a veteran with an opioid problem.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I think I gave you my talking points, but in there, we were able to identify that I believe there were probably a few veterans that we were able to identify at this time with opioid-related addiction. And then there was a higher level, obviously. We have more participants in felony drug court. And there was probably 1 or 2 from mental health court as well. So we'd like to use that funding that, if it's approved, to, assist those individuals in each one of the programs.
And again, this is one of those things where I believe that the county attorney and I had spoken, as well as the Martin County attorney, these pots go to specific funds or specific things, right? So I can't take somebody who has a cocaine addiction or a crack addiction and use the opioid funds for that purpose. So those funds are specifically earmarked for individuals with this specific type of an addiction disease.
All right. Any other questions for?
Madam Chairman, I think this is definitely a group that works on a shoestring budget. They got a lot going on, and I think I agree with Commissioner Fleischer. There's some unknowns here, but I think we can work through it because we got some good folks there to do this. So I'm proud to support it.
Anybody else from the public?
Unfortunately, we have to
Of course.
count
No,
on
no,
what
please.
we have today. We can only count today.
Of course.
Good morning, Commissioners. Stephen Hume, Chairman of the Veterans Council in New River County. I was in here 2 weeks ago, when was that last meeting on the opioid? I'm trying to remember what, a couple weeks ago, right? And council had brought up at that point in time, it's 1.2 million, and the state said it'll go down to 600,000 over 4 years and keep dropping successively over the next 18 years. We heard the 5 presentations that day from the different groups that came up. Council did bring up that there was $99,000 left in that initial pot, which I wasn't understanding of. There's multiple pots here. That $99,000, we went and researched at the council what we could do with that on a preventative measure, as Commissioner Adams and also Commissioner Ehrman had brought up in that setting. So preventative, the Veterans Council is able to take on case management referrals, warm handoff and programs for recovery services, mental health treatment, financial assistance, transportation, recovery to appointments, and connect the people who need help when they need it, as well as we address the needs of criminal justice involved persons in the jail right now through the sheriff. So we hit multiple layers on that funding. My request here was to just bring that up to the commission and ask what is going to be done with that $99,000 that's left over in that initial pot, and then also how this relates to, as the judge just brought up, the Veterans Court. There needs to be some preventative action here before they get into that doorway. So we'd like to see that.
So if I may, since the board had made that distribution at a prior board meeting, and it looks like there is a $99,000 left over, I'm happy to bring, or have myself or Mr. DeBrawl, whoever, bring the item back up so that can be discussed at that time if there are monies that are left over that still need to be dealt out. I thought all the monies were dealt out, but to my understanding, they were dealt out the last time, but if there is a fund or any monies left over, I'm happy to hear from the board on the direction that you all would like to take on that. But as far as from this pot, this is bring it back.
Yeah, my recollection of the discussion was that there was, what we were allocating that day, still, there was some monies that had come in after that, or were unknown, and it was anticipated to be about $99,000 that we were going to have to allocate in the future. And my understanding from Mr. DeBrawl was that we had to either allocate it or have it encumbered by June or July. So we're quickly approaching that, and I've gotten some questions from other organizations as to how and when and what and who. So if somebody could bring that back so everybody understands, that would be super helpful. And maybe, I'm a visual person, but maybe some kind of visual on what pots of money and where they're going. Because
I can understand I'm visual as well.
Yep, bring it back, because there may be some other organizations that are interested in it.
Okay.
And then specific to this allocation, this is the money that Commissioner Lohr was originally involved in, and it's recurring, and the proposal and the motion is to just keep putting it into the court system, which is what you had worked on originally, correct? Is that?
So, and I just want to clarify the motion, so it's just for the one time, or are you proposing that it be on the annual reoccurring?
Oh, just
the
one
one
time?
time.
One time.
Okay, so we'll bring it back yearly.
We'll decide, or we gotta figure out, of course, if it's gonna be reoccurring, because
Okay.
it's still a gray area.
Okay.
Okay.
Recurring, yes or no?
They're gonna add that to what you're bringing back on the 99 as to if this is recurring or not.
Correct.
And then we can maybe sew the whole thing up at the same time.
Okay.
Because we keep having competing opioid agenda items, and it's confusing for me. Of course, you know, I'm
I
highly
think it's
confused.
confusing for a lot of people, but, but we would definitely like to be in those talks, you know, because, well, the veterans going through that HUD voucher situation, they go to a homeless shelter, and they come out with addiction problems because of that. So we want to stop that before they end up in the judge's area and in the sheriff's area, right? We want to have that preventative, you know, finger on the pulse there.
So then, just for a note, then the next board meeting that could be brought up at is the March 5th board meeting. The deadline for that, I believe, is this Friday for us to put in agenda items.
Well, if it's not March 5th, it can be the second meeting in,
Okay.
the next meeting in March. Sometime in March
The 19th.
would be ideal.
I'm happy
And that gives everybody time to, or whoever's got to decide and present to divvy it up.
And would that be kind of a presentation type meeting where we'd come and present, or just, that would be,
I don't know about everybody else, but I would anticipate that that's more informational on what is left, what is recurring, what the parameters are, and then how do we want to set up the process to allocate that? Because there was conversation about having some kind of future plan too, and I don't know where that stands, and, and we just keep
We need to see what's available.
we keep segmenting the conversations for each one, but I think we need to have an overall opioid conversation, and then we can segment it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, so there is a motion by Commissioner Lohr, and the second was Commissioner Flesher, correct? Or Commissioner Ehrman, okay.
The other Joe.
Commissioner, Commissioner Ehrman, all right. To allocate the one-time dollars to the court, and then we'll find out about recurring and handle that at another date.
That sounds great.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana.
Number one, again, y'all have a difficult job, right? I mean, you have a lot of competing interests in a lot of different places. Do we front-end the money to try and avoid them ever getting to the system? What do we do when they ultimately get to the system? So I appreciate the work, the time that staff puts in, and what you all review as commissioners, and I'm happy to come back and share successes annually. So we'll kind of figure out where we're at when you all know where we're at. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. All right, commissioners, moving on to my matters that you were so kind to add. If I can find my, no, I can't find my papers. Oh, here they are. All right, so I took a stab based on y'all's input and feedback on the job description, so I'll pass this down. Suzanne sent out a job description. If you look on page 2, if I can find mine that I wrote on, you can see where under minimum qualifications, education and experience, I kind of rewrote that. The county attorney must be currently licensed to practice law in the state of Florida and be a member in good standing of the Florida Bar. They must possess a minimum of 10 years' experience practicing law in the state of Florida, of which a minimum of 5 years exclusively practicing local government law with a focus on drafting legal documents and complex transactional negotiations. Board certification in city, county, and local government law is preferred. So there's a difference between being certified in something and just being a member of a certain section of the bar. And so for this, I thought it was important that they have that certification.
Madam Chair, is there a reason why you took out the credit?
No, I just figure, I was just kind of trying to rewrite it. We can put that back in. I figured it would, you know, you kind of have to go to an accredited university to become a member of the bar. So it was kind of included or inclusive, but we can certainly put that back in. I have no problem with that.
You're big on that accreditation. Do you run an organization that what had?
How about we add back in graduation from an accredited law school with a Juris Doctorate degree from a law school accredited by the American Bar Association? Okay. Okay. And then, if you look down to the knowledge, skill, and ability section, I tried to take the input from everybody, and included those different things that we talked about: administrative law, matters and proceedings, state and federal statutes and common law, code enforcement, contract law, drafting and reviewing local ordinances, ethics law, constitutional law, land use. You can read all that. I was thinking under employment law, because I did not get the collective bargaining and workers' comp. Under employment law, just put a colon, including collective bargaining and workers' comp. And then also adding eminent domain as knowledgeable in the following local government law areas. And then I think that covers what everybody was looking for. On the next page where it says, starts with extensive and thorough knowledge, if you guys like the knowledge, the kind of bullet points that were added, we could probably pare down some of this, but a lot of it is just what you would normally want a professional to have: public speaking, ability to analyze, ability to prepare and try complex civil cases, that kind of stuff.
A lot of this is garden salad.
Mm-hmm.
And again, anybody who's applying, you know, once you pass this first step in education experience, some of these are interpretive.
Right.
So I don't think it's, this is designing exactly who we want.
Exactly.
But this is exactly the type of individual we want for us. So I think there's some discretion in the salad here.
Okay.
The entree is perfect.
Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to draw your attention to on the first page, under essential job duties, if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th bullet says prepares proposed legislation, contracts, and resolutions, and makes recommendations regarding amendment, revision, and repeal of existing law. And then if you drop down 3 more bullets, it then says drafts and presents legislative bills to delegation for consideration. To me, that's a little, we have a legislative person and have had them for several years now that really does that presenting to the delegation, and the prepares proposed legislation in the prior bullet covers drafting. So I was just going to suggest we just remove that bullet.
I think you'd want it to be part of the process.
Right, and that's in there. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't want, I just don't want them to necessarily feel like they have to go to the delegation meetings when we have somebody else that does that.
Well, yeah, right, but I mean, they would need to be part of the process.
Okay, so does that job description kind of cover everything you guys were looking for? Can we agree that this job description, after it's wordsmithed and checked for grammatical errors on my part, is something that we can utilize and get out on the street?
I agree, sir.
I believe that it'll pull in the right candidates.
Okay.
I mean, that's the intent.
Right.
My
goal was to get to an end today, an agreed upon job description that we could use. So if everybody's comfortable with this, I will work with Kim and Human Resources and get it put into proper form and email it to everybody, and then that will be the job description that we're using for this job search.
Madam Chair, does it need a salary range?
That is a very good question. I'm not sure.
I think most have salary.
Okay. So do you want the salary range to be?
You don't normally put that in the job description. You put that in your advertisement.
Right, and in your posting you would, and I understand we're still going through the salary assessment.
You would, and that's a great question, because I know in going through the salary assessment, that should be something that was a concern of mine that I kind of brought forward, was, making sure that we stay competitive when we're looking at that in the salary assessment, because I pulled, just for reference, the county that we're most similar to, Martin County. They have 5 attorneys, and I pulled their salary range, obviously not the same as ours, but it is still at a higher bracket. So if we just want to be competitive, to look at maybe perhaps theirs and another couple other similarly situated counties for their county attorney current salaries might be beneficial. If we don't have our salary study back yet, I'm not sure where exactly that's at. So that was just my only comment, is just to remain competitive.
But that's not, the salary study is not finalized, so we don't know exactly where it's going to go yet?
That's
correct. And this comes more into play when, or becomes a higher level of importance when Martin County is looking for an attorney as well. I just wanted to put it in perspective, but the salary study,
The salary study is not completed, and like my position, I'm not sure that the county attorney's position was evaluated, because you typically just, you hire based on the experience, and then you set it, there are some, and I know one of the ones that I shared with you, the SGR, they attached a proposal where they shared the range, so that there's absent, many job descriptions have the salary range in it. Yeah.
And also, Chair, that salary would be negotiated with the attorney when we decide to hire her or him.
Are we talking job description here, or are we talking salary range? You don't normally put your salary range in your job description. Your job description goes in your policy and your manual. When you have a position, you advertise for the position, you use your job description, then you place the salary within it. So I think it's two different things. Job description, this goes in the administrative manual. Am I right, sir?
Yes, well, it's done two ways. There's some places that just list the pay grade level, or they list what the range is in a job description.
You could do that, okay. I guess you could do the range, but yeah.
so just
Trying not to get ahead of this if we're gonna
I can tell you
one
that
thing at a time.
when looking for, if in past practice, when looking for an employment, you look at the job description to see if you qualify for the qualifications, A. B, you're also going to look to see what the salary says. There's usually a salary range that's posted with it. And I can tell you, if there's no salary posted, I don't bother applying.
And that's
Because.
Are we talking a job description?
Yeah.
Okay,
Are we
so what
talking a salary range?
what I'm talking about is multiple things. One, we have a job description. It sounds like everybody's okay with that.
Yes.
2, we take the job description and we then have to create a job posting. The job posting will have the salary range. Do you guys want to talk about a salary range today? Okay, so what we can do, we have an agreed upon job description. We can take that job description, I can work with HR, we can put together a job posting with a placeholder for a salary range. I can send that out to everybody. What I can do is, if you'd like, look at, Martin, some of the other comparables to us, and those around, and kind of give you a couple of different salary ranges, including what we're currently at. Then we can have a discussion about that and finalize the posting. Is that at the next meeting?
That sounds great, Madam Chair. And so you'll provide that. I did have the opportunity to review the Martin County salary range as well, and thank you, Counselor. Could we also include that in the package so that
Yes.
we have
I'll do a
more
little.
of an appreciation of what's out there?
I'll do a little research and include a couple of different counties similar to us, their salary ranges, as well as the amount of people that attorney is supervising. And then I also think that we should, maybe include some statement that you normally include, that your salary is also, we would evaluate how long they've been at other places and that commensurate on experience.
I do have one other question about the job description, because one of the things you put in here was for knowledge of eminent domain. I will tell you that there are other board certifications, for example, for eminent domain. Did you want to put in there that that you would consider other board certification areas?
Yeah,
not just
totally.
this? I just want to ask
Yeah.
for clarification. But, because obviously we have the city and county attorney board certs, but if you're looking for something like that, if you'd rather, not sure if you'd rather someone with an eminent domain over a city and county, but whatever your whatever the board's preferences are.
Okay.
But I would highly recommend that it be someone that has those certifications.
How about other board certifications will be considered?
I think that's fair.
Does that work?
Floating the net.
Okay, so I will be bringing back, just so I'm clear on where we are, I'll bring back a more robust job posting package. This was just the job description with all those other things in it, that's kind of in a form ready to be sent out for everybody to agree upon on the 5th. Yes, Commissioner.
Would staff at that time also be bringing information on a recruiter for this position?
So we did have, I think the administrator sent out a proposal from FGR or SGR. You should have gotten that in your email. We can discuss that today if you guys would like. I added this to the agenda, so I don't know if you want to discuss that on the 5th, when it's kind of noticed or whatnot.
Yes, no, I prefer to wait.
Okay.
Discuss it.
But does anybody have any feedback on anything that I've proposed or discussed here today? Or does it sound like we're on track?
No, let's roll.
Okay.
That's my,
Let's roll. All right, got it. Duly noted. Okay, so I think that gives me what I need for today. We continue to march along. I will make sure that this is actually an agenda item for next meeting, and then we can discuss the proposal as well as the job posting. All right, thank you guys so much for your feedback. I really appreciate it. With that, we will move on to Commissioner Moss's item, request from Vero Beach Film Festival to use commission chambers.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to recap, and I'll invite the representatives from the Vero Beach Film Festival forward. I'll begin the conversation and they can add to it. For the last 2 years, the chambers have been used to show movies. I've checked with staff. There haven't been any problems either of the years. And the Vero Beach Film Festival has already agreed to pay staff $2,544.49 for the staff time which is involved, and that includes 2 information technology technicians and 3 facilities personnel. Beyond that, I also asked to get some idea of the numbers in terms of tourist tax, because I know that's always a consideration of ours. And they came back to me, and it's in your package, that over 20% of the attendees, and this is the total number of attendees, 1,250 attendees, were from outside the county. So that gives us a 17% increase in spending at restaurants and hotels during that festival weekend, which will be in April this year. That's April 12th through the 14th. I should mention that. In previous years, it had been held in June. There hasn't been any onslaught of others looking to do this. I think that was a concern expressed last year. Well, if we allow one group, then we'll have many groups. There haven't been any other groups. And also, I look at it too as cementing our relationship with the community, and we've done a lot of that this year in different ways. You know, we've been reaching out to the community while we're revising the EAR, for example. We're about to, again, with the urban study, urban service boundary study, excuse me. And even as far back as a couple of years ago when we did the visioning study. So we look to reach out to people. And I think this is another way of really of community outreach, inviting people in to experience being here. And, we have a lot of people who have moved here in the last few years who really, they don't know, surprisingly perhaps, they don't know where we are, the physical location. So this gives us an opportunity to establish in a positive way a relationship with the community that they come here and enjoy. It's not simply a matter of someone coming here with a code enforcement issue or other kind of negative situation. And as I was driving to work this morning, I was thinking to myself, even beyond that, it's a way for us, when we have people here, to inform them about all kinds of different events, good things that we have going on. I just saw this yesterday, for example. This is a great job by the Parks and Rec Commission, or Department and Commission, to provide information on programs and a guide for the coming months. Things like that could be distributed or made available when we actually, have people here. So it's an opportunity for us not only to invite the community in and to reach out to them, but also to provide them, with information that, that they might not otherwise receive. So I view it in a very positive light. And I'm going to ask the representatives of the film festival to introduce themselves and add to the conversation.
All right. I'm David Yakir. I'm the executive director of the Vero Beach Film Festival. And this is?
I'm Susan Keller-Horn. I am the co-founder of the film festival. And thank you very much for having us here.
One of the discussions we had last year, I remember, I think the thinking amongst some of the commissioners was this was the only venue we were using. And in fact, we take over much of the town for the 4 days. We take over the library and the Women's Club, the Heritage Center, the Executive Courthouse, the Theater Guild, the Majestic Theater, and the Community Church. And we show any place between 70 and 100 films. This year, because of our reputation in the film festival arena, we had over 450 films submitted. But the one thing I really wanted to make clear is one of the reasons we need a venue like this is because in other venues, we have to outfit those venues. And a venue could cost us as much as $10,000 just to use that venue for a few days. And this is fully equipped. It's got the latest in technology and audiovisual. The same way, the reason we use the library is because they have the latest technology and audiovisual. So it's important. And this is one of the venues that actually looks more like an actual a theater, because you have a great screen here and you have comfortable seats and set up this way. So it's really important for us to add this venue every year. And I'm hoping you once again vote to give us the venue this year.
And I also want to say it's one of the most popular venues here. We put our best films here because most of our attendees love coming to see a film here. It's a great location, but it's also a great opportunity. Last year, one of the things that we showed here was what we call Vero Visions. That's local filmmakers. That's people within the Treasure Coast, but primarily majority of them are in Vero Beach. And it's an opportunity, as Laura had said, for people who live here, who've never seen the space, to see what we're all about, because we have an incredible space here. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a comfortable, wonderful space to showcase in our community. And so I just want you to know that. And also, you all talked about community, about all the employees here being public servants. You're public servants. The people who work here are amazing to work with. We have had such a great relationship with them. When it comes to working within this venue, because they are so amazing, we are able to put off all our films without a hitch, and that's huge. So those are reasons why we would love to be here again.
I appreciate this, and you know my standing in the past. It's truly unchanged. I feel like Bill Murray at Groundhog's Day. We're here once again talking about something that I've reviewed every one of our meetings, inclusive of the one which we denied the Taxpayer Association from using this room for an event because we have a great screen, because they wanted to pay for the time. We have great seats. And I think in that discussion was, this is the county seat. That's why that seal is up there. And this is where government happens, hallowed ground. We charge the hospital district to hold their meetings here. All other governmental meetings that happen here are arranged. We've denied others, and we've had several opportunities, appeals by 3 different commissioners, that we need to have a policy, yet we do not have a policy. And in hearing that, I know that in reviewing all of them, and you said we use this in a wide variety. We use a lot of different venues, and I'll bring up the IG Center again. I'll state that they have state-of-the-art equipment too, and you don't have to, you know, it's set up. It's not set up theater-like like this, but then there's a reason for that, and I don't support it because of the seal that's on the wall. And this is the people's room for governmental endeavors, and I think it should be maintained as such. We don't have a policy for this. We have to come and appeal it each and every time. I like the organization. I love the environment of it. But then again, when we hear about, that's not how tourist tax is assessed, by the way, and that's not the way it's accounted for. It's heads to beds, and there is a methodology to do that. It's done by many others. So the fact that people come from St. Lucie or Brevard or other points out further does not constitute a surge in tourist tax, okay? I just wanted to point that out. I think I might be familiar with it. With that in mind, as a matter of fact, there was one year where the organization had wanted tourist tax dollars for funding when they were doing a virtual, it was during COVID, you were doing virtual, and I didn't see how we can equate heads to beds. That's why I brought that up. So, and I don't think we see it now. I again, admired the organization, but I can't support this because we've already denied in the past others, and this seems like it was presumed that we're going to do that. We have the theater seats, we have the screen, there are other places, and we have state-of-the-art in, once again, in the IG Center. There's not much work to be done there, and again, you can talk with our IT folks. It's a great environment, and it's ready for production at any time. We hold a lot of events there. That's the purpose of that. I'm very honored that you're utilizing the Mary's Room. The Mary Schneider Room is perfect. It's not theater-like seating, but it works well for what you want to do. You're using the theater, you're using a few others. I didn't hear Vero Beach Chambers. Are they doing something?
No, we've
They have a big screen, and they have theater-like seating. And
I haven't seen that space myself, but also I rarely had seen this space prior to the film festival. I'd been here maybe for a couple of little things that my children may have been when they were growing up. But I know that this is a governmental space, but it's also an opportunity to allow people who may not be thinking about the government, or children who aren't thinking about government, coming into the space and seeing what it is all about. So although it is used as a governmental space and that is what its primary purpose is, it is another one. As far as the beds to heads, we do have statistics on that. I don't believe we have them with us today. But we definitely do have statistics on that. We also have a number of rooms currently being held for us for our filmmakers who will be coming from out of town. So as far as the heads to beds goes, we do have statistics on that. Unfortunately, we did not bring those with us.
Also, I want to address the IG Center, which we personally love. The way the film festival is programmed, the reason we keep it downtown and close is so people can go from one venue to the other. And what we found is the IG Center was too far away for people to actually hop over there to see films over there, because we schedule them, in 2-hour increments all over town. And it's difficult for us to put films that far away. Otherwise, in a minute. We love that, the IG Center. We think it's incredible. In fact, we have talked about doing individual events there, and only there, sort of mini film festival. But as far as the film festival we do yearly, it's really tough to use the IG Center.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to respond to some of the other points. With regard to the tourist tax, those numbers, they didn't come from the film festival. They came from the Indian River Chamber of Commerce in terms of the tourist tax. And that was through Ben Ehrman, who is in charge of tourism for the chamber. We do have a policy on this, and that's why it does keep coming back. It's Administrative Policy Manual. The section is Personnel. The number is AM 608.1. The effective date is November 13th, 2007. The subject is use of conference and meeting rooms in administration buildings A and B. And it keeps coming back because it says right here in the policy that these, any kind of individual event must be approved by the board. That would be we on a case-by-case basis. So that's why it keeps coming back. If we want to change this policy, then we can consider that going forward. But there is a policy. And the third thing I would say is that, well, there's no space is more sacred than a church. And at my church currently, Trinity Church, there's a series, music series, cultural, and that is the Chamber Music Society from Lincoln Center. I attended the first concert, and the second and third will be to come, and that's it's not even as comfortable as this, but it's a lovely venue, and I think again part of what they're doing with that is to encourage people to be in church. Just the way I said earlier, that we should encourage people to be here and engage with us, at other times, not only when they have a problem, and engage with us and engage with the building in a more positive context. So, thank you.
It's on record that we do not have a policy other than that the room is available, that it's here, and that we must decide. That's not a policy. It's state's policy.
Well, that's what it says. It says administrative
I
policy.
understand
It uses the
we're talking
word.
tomato and tomato here.
I don't mean to disagree,
We
but
have directed
they use
3 times that we need a policy. County Administrator, I realize that you're here, if you're here 8 months, it was 9 months ago the last time we did. So it didn't fall on your watch, and I'm not making aspersions, but we have, and I think you reviewed the tapes as well?
I did, as part of my due diligence, I watched probably maybe about the 4 months of meetings live prior to coming and interviewing with you all, but so yes, I did see this item come up, yes. But I can tell you, staff, through transition, for whatever reason, it did fall through the cracks. It won't. We'll get the policy updated, bring it back before you. But as of right now, this is the only policy that exists that we have.
Madam Chair, for the general counsel assistant, what type of exposure and liability do we have when we have essentially non-employees coming after hours, I presume? And to follow that up, what about, I see the cost of the employees, but there's no, like the fairgrounds where we charge, even if we had a policy, of course, that would have to be some formula for that, but I'm a little concerned, and last year was one of my first meetings, and I was against this. I do think this is a sacred area. You talk about bringing people here. When the screen's down, they can't see the seal. They may not know where they're at. Second thing is I live next door to the IG Center, and I can come here in about 5 to 7 minutes to work. So I'm not excited about, it's too far to drive. It's not Sebastian. It's literally 6 miles away. So exposure and liability.
So as far as exposure and liability, if we are contracting for another person to use, anybody in the general public can come in here today and they could, for all intents and purposes, trip and fall and get hurt. We are covered under a certain extent of sovereign immunity based on certain torts and things of that nature. However, if we're contracting it out for someone else to use, we are still protected to a certain extent, but we need to make sure that if we are contracting out something for use of our premises, that contract is at least, nice ironclad, that it says that we are not in this waiving our right to sovereign immunity and the sovereign immunity limits and all of that good stuff. Otherwise, we could be facing something there. There's a little potential there. So that's where that sort of liability comes in.
And that would probably be inclusive of our policy, our future policy. When someone rents the fairgrounds, do they provide us with some type of liability insurance?
To my understanding, they do, yes. They would have to provide that, and that is another common customary thing as well too, is whenever we do that for anybody coming in to rent any sort of facility from the county or do any work in the county, they're required to have liability insurance. So on top of that, so on top of the ironclad, hold harmless, sovereign immunity limits, they have to have their own liability insurance.
And we do.
And we do.
So you do have liability
Yes.
insurance? Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I think we've had this discussion. I'm having deja vu. We've had this discussion
Okay.
like 3 times, I think, already with this. We've approved these folks the last 2 years. They pay for the employees to be here. They cover all the costs. They had all the proper paperwork as far as I know. I don't see what the harm is in reference to like when we moved, the taxpayers asked for this, we moved it to the IG Center. That was a much better venue for this because we didn't know if we had enough seating or if it was going to be crowded up here, and it gave people more of a open feeling when we participated in that this past year. So that worked out, but the arguments and the conversations were the same. And I think it's worked well the last 2 years. There haven't been any issues. I think I even asked, I don't know if I asked you, Mike, or somebody else after the event last year when y'all did it, and they said everything went fine. It was no problems at all. And I understand. We've had this discussion 3 times, and Commissioner Fleischer, I understand. I just think we've allowed this the last 2 years. I don't think there's any harm in doing it one more time for them and take it from
Well,
there.
because
Maybe
we
we'll
allowed
have
it in the past,
maybe
doesn't
we'll have
make
a
it
policy
right
by
in the
then.
future.
Maybe we can really look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we'll do the same thing next year.
So
It'll be like the Sixth Amendment to the other.
who on staff would be in charge of putting a policy together?
Myself and Michael will take responsibility with facilities.
Is that something that can happen before March 5th?
Facilities was tasked with it last year, it just didn't arrive in chambers. It was a simple amendment, depending on what the board's direction is, to the existing policy, which would essentially either exclude or include this as a venue for private events outside of the commission's business.
Well, I would prefer, like, I agree with the point that you're making. We've asked for a policy and we just keep hodgepodging it. And I understand the point that you're making, that we've allowed this for 2 years, but for me, I want a policy. And if the only way to get a policy is to say, we're not gonna vote on this until the 5th, when a policy can be presented, that's where I'm at, because I do agree that that you guys have been caretakers of the room and it hasn't been a problem. But I also think that we are making exceptions for people and not for other people, and there's gotta be consistency. And I'm not comfortable making a decision today without some discussion on the policy, because I want it to be applied consistently, and I'm thinking about the taxpayers' conversation. And there needs to be a fee. Every other facility, you pay a fee on top of what you pay for the people that have to be here to run that. And that's just common, and it needs to be laid out, whatever is or not is going to happen. But I guess for me, I would prefer that this get rolled into an agenda item on the 5th, talking about a policy. And then we can make a decision on this, and it can adhere to the policy, and everybody else can meet that policy moving forward, whatever that policy may be. But I'm not comfortable making a decision in favor or against when we've made decisions for other people in favor or against, and we're treating everybody differently, and we're gonna get ourselves into trouble. And I know you guys probably have a time frame, that's why you're here today, but, you know, I am not comfortable picking winners and losers in this until I can align it with a policy.
If I may really quickly, that was actually going to be something I wanted to chime in upon, Chairman. So I'm very glad that you brought that up, because as I'm looking at this, and the current policy says case-by-case basis, but that allows for a lot of subjectivity, and we have to be very objective to make sure that all parties are treated alike when we're doing this sort of determining who gets to rent and who doesn't. Nothing against anybody here asking for it, but as you said, I think there needs to be something that, at least if it's on a case-by-case, that we know what we're looking at objectively.
Well, and that was put in place for commissioners to be able to use this. This was, I think were you here in 2007? Commissioners to be able to use this to support a certain program or a workshop or something that they wanted to do related to their position as a commissioner, that they were hosting a workshop. I mean, it's come up in years past where you had commissioners that wanted to do an economic development summit or a lagoon summit years ago and use this, and that's what that policy is for, on a case-by-case basis for commissioners to sponsor something, not, because you're not involved in this, so it doesn't, that wasn't what that policy, my understanding historically, was meant to get at. So I agree with Susan that if we continue down this path, we're going to either allow or exclude somebody and end up in a liability situation for discrimination.
You referred to 2007, Madam Chair. Yes, I was here. There was some other younger people there too at the time. But again, you have to realize that this was brand new. 2007 is when we walked into this room from the old hospital. And in addition, the IG Center did not exist. It was only in a thought. And the fairgrounds was not developed interior-wise and with technology as well. The Mueller Center was not there. And now it has all the technology too. That's another option. They have a bigger screen than us at the State College. But none of that happened, so all things did not remain constant, including the festival and other things that are happening in the community. So I can't slight 2007. I could say that as this thing progressed, as we appealed, we should have adjusted or done something to ensure the compliancy and the ability to apply or not apply. And that's it, but yes, back in 2007, it was different times. Oh, I sound like an old man.
Madam Chair, when, maybe it's me, but I think we're missing the big picture because we've all worked hard to get these positions. This is unlike any other place in the county, what it represents. If we're gonna start not diluting it with these folks, but as Susan said, what do we do when, let's say, a controversial group wants to come in and show a movie? Now we're putting ourselves in another position. The policy should be simple. It's for government business only, period. Because we have our legislative affairs meetings here, we have P&Z, we have all of those other things, but when we start opening up the chambers for a movie theater, bad business.
Can't disagree with that one. I feel that this means so much more than a gathering spot. It's not a gathering spot. It's not a playground, it's not a viewing stand. We hold events here when we are part of the event or another governing body is present. All the hearings are done here, all of our code enforcement boards, the code enforcement board meets here. We do have many structured events that are governmental. I just don't see it.
I would just say it's not more, I agree, this is, it's a wonderful place, and it's a good purpose, but honestly, it's not more sacred than a church. And my church is not the only church, but I know many of the churches in this community that make space available for cultural events. Many.
Community Church will be
But-
hosting us this year as well.
Thank you. But that's fine if you want to leave this until the next meeting. We'll just, continue the conversation.
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I just want to mea culpa here because I misread the policy, and I've already confirmed with the school board that they could use our chambers on the 18th of March. I'll bring an agenda item to ratify that. The school district, because of the election cycle, will not have their facility available, and I thought it was not just, I didn't read just constitutional, so I apologize, and I'll bring an agenda item, but it is the school board.
It is a governmental
Yes.
governing body.
I just want to get it out there. I'm like, as I'm reading this policy that Commissioner brought up, I'm like, ooh.
Appreciated.
And we did the same thing for the city of Vero Beach when their chambers were getting updated, that they held several meetings here as well.
All right, so we will continue this conversation on March 5th, and hopefully there will be a policy.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to Solid Waste Disposal District. The first item is approval of the Solid Waste Disposal District minutes of December 12th. Does anybody want to make a motion on that, or?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second that. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Watch you explain.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Haven't you spoke since he's been back from India?
No, this is his first, this is his debut return to Chambers.
Welcome back, sir.
We're happy you made it back, and we're happy you had such a successful trip, too.
Yes.
We won't go into right now, but. All right,
see it?
15B2, approval of amendment number 1 to work order number 1 to Geosyntac for Phase 2, Segment 3, Cell 3 Engineering Services. Good Lord. that-
Move approval.
Good morning, Commissioners. Himanshu Mehta, Managing Director of Solid Waste Disposal District. It's good to be back. Sorry about missing last month. And I can assure you that staff's going to be working hard on that project and doing our part. I wanted to, both of these items are very important. I wanted to kind of at least talk a little bit about them. They're both related. You know, we basically have seen over the last few years a lot of construction, a lot of growth occurring in our county, and it has certainly impacted our capacity at the landfill. When we generally look at landfill cells, typically, we look at 5 to 7 years of capacity for a 10-acre cell. So the last cell we completed was in 2013, was cell 1 in segment 3. We have 8 cells at the time in segment 3. And so we built that one in 2013, and then cell 2 was completed in 2020. So, we're anticipating another good 6-7 year run, typically. But with the construction and whatnot that's occurring, the growth that's occurring, we're pretty much in the 4 to 5 year range for a cell to fill up. And so with board direction, last year, we proceeded to get cell 3 ready. We basically had Geosyntec as our engineer do the design services for the phase 1, which essentially is like building a pad for your house. So we basically built the pad with Geosyntec doing the design work. The board awarded a contract to Ryan Incorporated to do that building of the pad. That project is complete. We're ready to begin what we call phase 2, which is putting the liner on that pad. We would add an additional layer of soil, and then we can begin to place waste. So we had Geosyntec basically work on the phase 2 part, go ahead and prepare the construction documents for the liner project. We went out through the bid process through our purchasing department. And so today is sort of a combined approach where we're recommending award of the bid to Comanco, and along with that for Geosyntec to administer the construction services. So the item that you mentioned today, it is for Geosyntec. It's, work order 1 was part of the initial design work, getting the construction drawings ready, helping with the procurement process, and now we're ready to begin their construction services. So staff does recommend approval of the amendment number 1 to work order 1 to proceed with Geosyntec for construction services. And I guess I'll stop there, and then if you have any questions, and then the next item is the award of contract.
Are there any questions on the work order? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Yes.
I have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, the second by Commissioner Ehrman. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And now the award of the bid.
Right, so on this project, the overall budget that we had was $10.625 million, $10,625,000 for both engineering and construction services. It broke down into $1,050,000 for engineering and then $9,575,000 for construction. I can say that with the approval here for Geosyntec, the total engineering is below budget. We're at about $32,000, $33,000 below sort of the engineering budget for the project. So I'm kind of happy to report that. However, with the competitive bid process, both for what we approved already for Ryan Inc., that was about $5.8 million. We did the competitive bid process here. The price for Comanco is almost $6.9 million. And what's resulted is the total construction project right now is about $3.1 million over budget. We do have fund balance available to cover that, and obviously, as I mentioned, it's critical to the function of our community to make sure we have an active cell ready to go to place waste in. So I highly recommend approval of this contract to Comanco. And we're going to be doing our best to kind of make sure we're ready for cell 4 ahead of time, properly budget for these things. We did have an engineer's estimate. Geosyntec did prepare that. Basically, our low bidder was about 14% higher, and the second low bidder was 15% higher. The other 2 bids, we had 4 bids. The third bidder was 42% higher than the engineer's estimate, and the fourth bidder was 46% higher. This continues to be a COVID impact. It continues to be that material and labor prices have continued to increase in our community. And so although we had a good estimate and kind of coming to the county administrator and the budget director in terms of what we were expecting to spend based on past cell constructions and other cell construction projects going on, the competitive market is showing that it's costing more to build these cells. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Nope. What is your pleasure, commissioners?
So moved, Madam Chair.
And I will be happy to second that.
Thank you much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, that was the last thing on our agenda. So, well, I mean, we could stretch it if you want to, but Commissioner Lohr is probably getting hungry. It's almost lunchtime.
Very hungry.
So we best,
11:30?
we best adjourn. All right, y'all have a great day.